Tonight, we're awaiting word from lawyers representing Christine Blasey Ford on whether or not she will testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee next week. The Senate Republican chairman of the committee has set a deadline of 10 p.m. tonight for her lawyers to respond and said the committee will vote on this confirmation on Monday if Ford's lawyers do not meet the deadline or if she decides not to testify. So we could be having a vote this Monday. We're going to get to that next with a friend of Dr. Ford's who was a fellow student at Holden Arms School. But first, the other breaking story tonight is that the fuse has been lit, I believe, for a Saturday night massacre. For over a year now, President Trump has been dying for a way to get rid of special counsel Robert Mueller. And now it looks like he may have found that fuse. That's because the only man with ultimate authority over the Mueller probe is once again in Trump's crosshairs. The New York Times reported today that the Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein suggested last year that he secretly record President Trump, secretly record him in the White House to expose the chaos consuming his administration. And he discussed recruiting cabinet members to invoke the 25th Amendment to remove Mr. Trump from office for being unfit. Rosenstein's remarks came in a meeting with Justice Department and FBI officials just 1 week after the president's firing of James Comey. Well, the account of what happened is attributed to people briefed on the meeting, as well as people familiar with the content of memos documenting Rosenstein's comments. However, other sources familiar with that conversation tell a different story to NBC News, saying that Rosenstein's remarks were not meant seriously. One senior justice official who was in the room for the meeting said this statement was sarcastic and was never discussed with any intention of recording a conversation with the president. Yet the New York Times further notes that Rosenstein also discussed recording the president in the Oval Office on other occasion, at least one other occasion. In a statement earlier today, Rosenstein called the report inaccurate and factually incorrect, adding that it's based on anonymous sources who are obviously biased against the department. And he said, this is Rosenstein, based on my personal dealings with the president, there is no basis to invoke the 25th Amendment. Whatever Rosenstein's intent, the dispute over what was said or how it was said is not likely to deter this president if he's intent on cleaning house at the Justice Department. Joined right now is the author of that story, Michael Schmidt of the New York Times. Michael Grissom's a former U.S. attorney who worked with Rosenstein, and Joy Ainsley's a national security and justice reporter for NBC News. This is explosive stuff, Michael, and I can only believe that if Trump knows, which he already knows now from this report, that Rosenstein was talking about going to invoke the 25th Amendment, that he was talking about wiring himself on 2 occasions to go in to see the president and to basically tap the president, that he's on his way out.
Well, I mean, that's what remains to be seen. Is the president going to look at this and say fake news because he's very concerned about the 25th Amendment? This is a big issue for him. He does not like that. A lot of pushback from the White House on that, trying to get us to not write about that. Is he just simply going to lump all of this in with the same basket and say, look, this is just a big fake story, I don't care about it? Or is he going to have a larger issue with Rosenstein? We know the president is already considering, even before this story came out, finding new leadership at the top of the Justice Department. He's going to wait until after the midterm elections to put someone else in. This is something he has wanted to do since the beginning of his presidency, since Attorney General Sessions recused himself from the Russia investigation. So here we are now. The president maybe has some ammunition, maybe he doesn't. You know, it remains to be seen. We have not heard from him yet. He's had several public appearances today.
Julia, the president, rather the Justice Department, has sweeping discretion as to what to prosecute. Why wouldn't the president use this as an opportunity within a couple of weeks to simply say, you know what, I'm getting rid of Sessions, who I don't think anything of. I'm going to get rid of Rosenstein. I'm going to find a way to plumber my way, figure out the right plumbing system that gets me to the special counsel, Robert Mueller, and quash this damn thing, because I don't want my sons, I don't want my son-in-law, I don't want my daughter prosecuted, I don't want myself prosecuted. And the fastest way to deal with that is get rid of the team that seems intent on prosecuting me. Julia.
Well, that's exactly right, Chris. And this article could be handing him exactly the ammunition that he would need to carry out that kind of Saturday night massacre that you're describing, especially when you put this in the context of the fact that his personal lawyer is now cooperating with Mueller's team, and Paul Manafort, his former campaign manager, has flipped and is now cooperating as well. There's a lot of pressure on him right now, which is putting pressure on the Justice Department. But, Chris, if you look at the calendar, we are just a little more than a month out from 2018 midterms, and it's sort of been an assumption for some time that the president would wait until after the 2018 midterms to fire Jeff Sessions and then potentially Rod Rosenstein as well, that he didn't want this at this time. It would be very hard to get somebody confirmed in this kind of environment to take that place. As we know, the number 3 right now is in an acting position, so you would have to fall way down the totem pole to the Solicitor General. You would really have a Justice Department weakened at the knees if he decided to fire these people overnight.
Well, the president's son, speaking of him, Donald Trump Jr., is already fanning the flames today after this report came out, tweeting, shocked, absolutely shocked. Who are they? Who are we kidding at this point? No one is shocked that these guys would do anything in their power to undermine Donald Trump. He's talking about the Justice Department. He's talking about Rod Rosenstein. And late tonight, the Daily Beast reported that current and former administration officials said they fully expected President Trump to dismiss staff inside the Justice Department. Less clear was how many people will get the axe and when exactly it will fall. Barry, give us a sense of this, because Trump talks about the power of the president under the second article, Article 2 of the Constitution, as sweeping, that he's the chief enforcement official of the law, that he is in charge of all executive authority in this country, the president. That's his interpretation of things. Why wouldn't he act in that accord with that and just take over this prosecution?
Well, sadly, I think this is one more example that the president doesn't understand the Constitution fully. The Justice Department is not his law firm. The Attorney General is not his personal lawyer. And it seems that for months, when he talks about not having his Attorney General and how sad it is, it's not his Attorney General. It's the Attorney General that represents the interests of the United States. Going back to Rod for a second, and I think this is something people need to understand, and I noticed in the New York Times article they made reference to it. Rod is a career guy. He's been there since 1990. He served as U.S. Attorney in Maryland for 12 years. He was appointed by George Bush. He was asked to stay over by President Obama. And I can tell you, during the time that I served with Rod as a U.S. Attorney, I can never recall him talking about politics at all. But what I can tell you about Rod is he has a very dry sense of humor. And when I read that there was someone who said that they saw him say this in a sarcastic way, I tend to believe that.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.